100, episode 8, Day Trip. Yet another really good episode from this show, and it was a pretty funny one. It had its funny moments because, of course, everyone was kind of tripping out because they ate these spoiled nuts, but at the same time, it led to some really great moments with characters having to reflect on some of the decisions they've made. And it really focused a lot on Bellamy in this episode, and I love that because he was struggling now that they've set up communications with Ark. They even have video now, so everyone's able to talk with their parents. And he's kind of had his second in command tell everyone's parents who have died that they've passed on. And he's been avoiding Jaha because he shot him, and he's so scared that the only thing that's going to happen to him is that he's going to be executed for shooting the Chancellor. And he was so scared of that that he was actually going to run from the camp and just leave everyone so that he could survive. And it was a great episode that focused on his huge struggle of having to deal with that, and him feeling as though he's just made the worst decisions left and right because so many people died, and that it all started with his mother, and it just carried on into him being the leader on Earth, and people just died left and right, and he feels like a murderer, and he wanted to die during his hallucination. And it just made for a really good scene, and Clark had to deal with like sort of seeing her father and trying to figure out how to be a good leader and stuff like that. And I thought it was just really well done. And in this episode, the characters do get guns because they've shown that in the trailers before, and I always wondered how did they get guns, and they get it from the bunker. So maybe we'll see them use the bunker a lot more. Who knows? They talked about how crappy it was and how everything was destroyed. There are no rations or anything, but they'll still kind of have to use it for winter because it's the only place they can really go. They have the little bunker area that Clark and Finn found, and that's about it. That could hold a couple of people, but they're still gonna have to go to this bunker to at least stay warm. They can collect all their fruits and stuff, and just take it there, and that's really their only option. But it was really cool to see them finally get these guns, and now they have them, and they're gonna be able to take a stand against the grounders and stuff, and it'll be really cool to see that take place. But them figuring out the guns, like some of the bullets working and some of the bullets not working, that actually led to a great final scene where the guy who is basically coerced into killing Bellamy, he had his gun, Clark had a gun, and Bellamy thought he had a gun. I actually liked that scene where he reached for the gun because the guy pulled it and nothing happened, so he had to let that bullet out of the chamber, and he went to reach for a gun that wasn't there. I thought that was kind of cool. And then Clark was about to shoot the guy, and then her gun didn't work, and it was like you just never know with these guns which bullets are going to work and which ones won't. And that probably won't carry on throughout any more episodes because they'll figure it out. They'll probably be someone who knows a lot about guns or something, who knows. But I thought that just made it kind of cool where it was like everyone had a one up on the other person, but it didn't work because these guns are old and some bullets work and some bullets don't, and you just didn't know in that scene. And I just thought that kind of heightened the tension and made it pretty cool. But it was a really good episode, and of course, aside from Bellamy and Clark sort of having their little adventure, we also get Octavia with the Grounder, and we find out that his name is Lincoln. And we also find out he speaks perfect English. It's not like he knows what some stuff means here and there. He speaks perfect English, and that was also displayed in the trailer after the episode went off. That they just speak fluent English. It's just carried on like it always has. Nothing has changed. So it'll be interesting to see, especially next week's episode. I cannot wait to see that because they actually meet up with the Grounders and stuff. So that'll be crazy to see. But in this one, we get him actually talking, and he and Octavia, clearly they bond really well. They actually make out in the end of the episode. But she uses the peanuts because she knows that it kind of makes everyone go crazy. And she uses that to help him escape, and he runs across Finn, and Finn just lets him go even though he's the one who almost killed him. It was cool to see that guy escape, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And that's probably why in the trailer they showed Finn talking to the guy who escaped, because it kind of solidifies the fact that not every single human is just out to kill all the Grounders. It shows that even though Finn was clearly sober, he just let that guy go, and this is the one person that attacked him. So it kind of gives a little bit of hope as to who the 100 can end up being, and that they aren't just a bunch of crazy murdering teenagers. So it'll be interesting to see if that does have an actual effect as to how Lincoln actually views the group as a whole. So we'll have to wait and see until next week's episode. But I thought that was a good moment to it. Just that nice little stare down that they have for a few seconds, and Finn just lets him go because Finn's one of the good guys in the show. But it was a really good episode, and we also get to see who actually had the Chancellor shot, and it turns out it was the old Chancellor. And it just brings up so many questions, like why did she want to do that? Is it so that she can get her place back? Is it because she just doesn't like him? What is her plan for taking over? They I feel like they have to have the same plan. They're all trying to just get to Earth. What could she possibly gain with having him killed? Even if she came back in, if someone did take over, it probably would have been the same thing as it is now, where she would have just filled in a former position. She wouldn't actually be the chancellor, but she'd still have a bit of power because she's the former chancellor. But it was really cool to actually see who finally set that up, and it of course wasn't the guy who it seemed like it was gonna be. He's basically turned a new leaf. He's kind of like just a good guy now. But the chief of police or lieutenant or whatever his position was, he gets killed off in the end. And they did it in a crazy way. I thought she was just gonna have him shot. I thought the guy had a gun at first, but she just slits his wrist, and they just leave him there to die. They knocked him out, cut his wrist. He bleeds out and he dies. And of course, it's gonna look like a suicide, like he didn't want to tell or something like that. But she wanted the chancellor dead, and I'm very curious as to why. What is her official plan for having everything, come together? So we're gonna have to wait and see what her crazy political schemes are now that she's in the fold once again. Now that Clark's mother is gone, but it'll be interesting to see what she plans on doing and if she'll take some more drastic steps as things get closer to who's gonna get sent to Earth and who's gonna be stuck on the Ark until they just die of no oxygen. But it was a great episode. It was cool to see Bellamy in the end when he did accept, after having the crazy hallucination of seeing Jaha and he was bleeding and basically just the 100 around him calling him a murderer. It was cool to see him accept his position and realize that he had to stand up to Jaha, whether or not he was afraid, because even if he's scared, they're gonna come down to Earth. And it was cool to see him stand up to Jaha and actually talk to him, and he was actually pardoned for what he did. And it was kind of a nice ending for him, but of course it still ended pretty crazy, and they left him a nice little cliffhanger with this woman just coming in out of nowhere. It seems like I'm just so confused. I can't even imagine what her plan could be outside of being the chancellor. I don't see what more she could really want to do, because whether she's chancellor or not, everybody's just dying. Like, there's just, her being chancellor won't just suddenly make more drop ships, or it won't just suddenly solidify her place going to Earth, because she's already on the council, so she's probably going to be one of the people going anyway. So it just makes me question, what could she really think being the chancellor was going to do, even at that point, because it's almost exactly the same scenario. They just didn't kill off the people at that point, but they had the same plan. She knew what the plan was when she saw it in Jaha's living quarters. So the plan was at least thought up when she was the chancellor. So nothing has really changed at all, except for the fact that some of the people have actually died and Earth is livable. So I don't know, and this was obviously before they sent anyone to Earth. So what was her plan then? And how is she still going through it now? Because she obviously is. That's why she got herself back on the council. But I can't even think of what she could really hope to achieve by being the chancellor, or even being on a seat in the council, because there's just not much that could possibly change at this point in time. Some people are gonna go. They may or may not figure out a way to make more drop ships so that they can actually save everyone and send everyone down to Earth. But I'm very curious to see how that plays out, and I'm really excited to see how things work out with some of the members within the group, especially between Octavia and Bellamy, now that Bellamy sort of had his accepting moment of himself and the decisions that he's made. But it'll be a good episode next week for sure. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of the political aspects to it, as far as them showing the arc a lot, but I think it'll be in there for sure because I don't think they're just gonna skip over the guy, killing himself in his prison cell. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out on the arc as well. But it was a great episode. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. It obviously didn't focus much on the people being drugged or anything like that. It wasn't super dangerous or a really bad hallucination. It was actually just really funny, but it did of course have its dramatic moments. And we're gonna have to wait and see if they incorporate some of the things they've introduced in this episode. Specifically the bunker being introduced and of course Octavia and Lincoln possibly bonding with each other because that's just probably gonna happen. They introduce it. I don't think they'll kiss and then it's just like meh, nothing. It's probably gonna be a big storyline throughout the rest of the season where they'll be sort of the delegates that end up making the two groups bond together, or at least trying to, and it might not work out, and that might get one of them killed off or something. And most likely, if that does happen, it would probably be Lincoln and not Octavia. But if it was Octavia, that would once again be a crazy twist for the show. But that's just me throwing out ideas, and we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited for next week, and of course, comment below, let me know what you guys thought of this episode, favorite parts, and your least favorite parts. And with the way the episode ended, I have to ask, what do you guys think? I believe her name is Diana or Diane. What do you guys think her plan actually is? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.